Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation TV with your host, Jeff Charles. The migrant crisis at the southern border continues to play out as the Biden administration struggles to appease the far-left open borders crowd, while also maintaining the illusion that they want to enforce the nation's immigration laws. Now that a judge has compelled the White House to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy, open borders advocates are quickly losing faith in the administration. Here with me to discuss this matter is Liberty Nation's national correspondent, Sarah Cowgill. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's talk about the Migrant Protocol, the Migrant Protection Protocol. So this is also called the Remain in Mexico policy. Mm-hmm. And now it's back in play after the White House tried to discontinue the program. So can you explain how the court stopped the administration from canceling that program?
Well, there was a couple of things at play. Number one, it wasn't a unanimous decision. It was 6-3. So the more conservative arm of the court upheld the Remain in Mexico. But the other thing was the Biden administration really didn't put a lot of thought into it. As usual, all they wanted to do is rescind anything that Trump put into place. And so when you're looking at it, I think the court called it, hang on, I'll give you their exact words. The Biden administration failed to show a likelihood of success on the claim that the memorandum rescinding the migrant protection protocols was not arbitrary and capricious. Basically, stop being so petty. And they didn't prove that it should be rescinded.
That's interesting. See, I didn't think that the courts were even allowed to do that. I mean, if a president issues an executive, well, I guess it's not an executive order. It was just a memorandum, right? Right. And
it was basically just trying to undo an executive order. So they didn't go about it the right way in the first place. In the second place, the court found it, well, at least 6 people on the court found it kind of petty and just, they weren't going to put up with that. They kind of want things done the right way, which is, to be applauded if they want things done the right way.
Yeah. Now, could they do that for all the rest of the programs that he rescinded? Because those were all equally as petty, in my opinion.
I would say no, simply because the court is not, it's not their job to just undo everything that somebody else has done. Now, they're going to have to make legal decisions on things. And if it's a legal aspect, sure, they might be able to say you can't do that or he couldn't do that. But I guarantee you, if it had been a legal aspect when Trump was doing executive orders, they would have already been tied up in court, all of them, instead of where they ended up. So I doubt that that's going to set a precedent whatsoever.
Right. Now, in your opinion, and why does the left oppose the Remain in Mexico policy? Don't give me the real reason, because we already know the real reason. But what are their arguments against it?
There's the humanitarian argument, and they have a point. I'm not going to say it's right or legitimate, but these people are, underfed, underclothed. They don't have places to stay. Mexico has to do their part, and I'm not sure they are doing their part. I'm not sure anybody knows if they're doing their part. It has to be a two-way street. Mexico has to agree to it and take care of these people until they can get to the United States. So that is the argument from a lot of pro-immigration groups, is that, these people don't have a place to live. They don't have money. They don't have income. They're at the mercy of Mexico, and the United States can't control how Mexico treats the migrants coming through their country. So that's one of the biggest arguments right there. And I would have to agree. It's a little frightening. We know we can take care of them on our side of the border, but we don't know what we can do on the other side of the border. We have absolutely no authority. So that is, in itself, a big argument. I think the other argument is simply it's just easier for Mexico to send them all backpacking, back to Central America. And that's probably not the best idea either. All the above. I mean, all these people need to go somewhere. They're not all criminals. They're not all, looking for a free ride. And they have to go somewhere. They can't just be in limbo for years and years and years and years. So in order to fix this, you'd have to fix the immigration policy here in the United States, and nobody's working on that. They're just working on either opening the gates or closing the gates.
Yeah, that's true, and that is a valid criticism of the Remain in Mexico policy, because that's one thing that I discovered was happening when I was doing my research on it. You know, when Trump first put it into practice. I guess to me, they want to throw the whole program out. I think that there might be ways to fix it so that it does keep people safe. I would rather go that route, but there isn't a perfect solution, right? I mean, there's no perfect way to solve this. Every single solution is going to have its issues.
Everything is going to have, every, result has a consequence, or every action has a reaction. For a long time, I was listening to people debate how the government should put in, Section 8 housing on both sides of the border, and basically put in dormitories so people are safe and they have a place to eat. And that's all very good and well. But my government shouldn't pay for that. And Mexico's government can't and won't pay for that. So what you have is, if you have private enterprise, I don't know, maybe people that own big tech like Zuckerberg or Bezos or any of those guys could write a check and get that done. And that would help at the, on both sides of the border, would help process people. If they want to get that done, you don't just open the gate, you process. And that's, a way that people could be held comfortably, safely, until they were either kicked back to their own country or brought into the United States. That would be my solution if I had a say.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you bring that up. I mean, because we're in an era now of woke capitalism, right? Woke corporatism. Wouldn't this be the perfect way to virtue signal some of these companies? They got billions of dollars. You mentioned Jeff Bezos. I mean, why can't they do something? I mean,
why don't they do something is what you should be asking. They can, they don't. They expect government to step up and do all of those deeds while they waller around in $1 million, on their bed at night, and probably use them for spoons in their cereal. They just don't. They won't. They're greedy. There's a reason they're at the top of the heap and not sharing the love. They're greedy.
Well, it's almost like this whole focus on wokeness on the part of corporations is just performative.
It's just like everything else. It's like, look at us, buy our crap because we're corporate greed, and look at us, we're doing the right thing. Buy our shoes, buy our stuff. It's bogus. It's just another ad. It's an ad campaign for them.
It is. We got to do another episode just on that alone, because that's a very.
I think so too.
Yeah. But you also brought up the fact that policy is an issue. Like, nobody can really decide on a policy that might work. So last Saturday there was a meeting with White House officials on the border crisis, and there were open borders advocates who staged a walkout. Now, it was a Zoom meeting, so they didn't walk anywhere, but they clicked off, and they don't think that Biden's doing enough for immigrants. But
that kind of loses its oomph if you just have to shut your screen. You can't hear the door slam. That's kind of sad.
It kind of looks silly. Like, I don't see how they didn't feel silly doing it. I mean, there's something different about walking out of a building or out of a room and filming it or something like that. No, they just clicked.
Right. Click. Yeah. Oh, that was satisfying.
Yeah, you really showed them. Yeah.
Woohoo! I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's typical of far left progressive type of people, that they don't get their way, they throw a tantrum. They don't know how to handle life any other way. We've raised a generation of outright, I can't use the word I want to use, but I'm going to say sissies.
Yeah, there you go. But here's the thing, though. I mean, Biden has been pushing to give illegals living in the country right now a pathway to citizenship, and he basically invited these migrants to come to the southern border. So to me, it's very interesting to see the line that he has to walk here, because that still, even that isn't enough for these people. What's your take on it? What's your take on this?
Joe Biden is trying to make everybody happy, and honestly, I don't even think he's doing much of anything other than following a script. Whatever he wakes up from his nap, they tell him what to do, and he says it, and then that's it until he finds a new audience and he has to say something different to them. In reality, the open borders people, if they get their way, this country is going down in a pile of garbage. not because of the people, but because of the inability to handle the people. We can't take that on. Not psychologically, not financially. We just can't take that on. And there has to be a way to do it. And if this administration doesn't put a lot of effort into figuring how to make the immigration process smoother, faster, more reliable, I mean, Jesus Pete's, they tend to want to expand the government so much. Why don't they expand how this process works? You open court. They're putting in the tent courts again because they don't have room. So they got to get it done somehow. But they don't have the employees. They don't have the staff. They just have people saying, open the door and we'll figure it out later. And that's not the way you do it.
True. I mean, in continuing in the whole policy vein too, throughout this whole thing, Sarah, I was like, how could they be mishandling this so badly? And I think we know now, because there was a report that came out, multiple reports. I think this is the issue here. These reports are saying that there's like a really big rift among members of the Biden administration when it comes to immigration policy. And this rift is there because there are certain members of this team that want to go full open borders. And then there are others who are more moderate, who may not be as hawkish on immigration as Trump, but they do want border security and they do want us to enforce our immigration laws. And when you have a team that's as polarized as this is, now I can kind of see why the administration is not coming up with solutions. What do you think?
Well, they have a different solution every day. It's just never the same. It's never on the same track. No, they're a mess. If you haven't noticed, pretty much everything they've tried to do is just a giant catastrophe waiting to happen. Afghanistan was a catastrophe. There's so many things that they have done and failed in a short period of time, very short period of time. So, when you have, you campaign on, humanitarian relief and, let all the migrants in, and then you stomp around the country, or go to Central America and say, don't come, we're not going to let you in. So you've got all these mixed messages out there and you can't respond to them all. So instead of picking a way to approach, they just keep recycling and they keep adding committees, and none of that ever gets anything done. It just sounds like you're doing something. It never gets anything done. So you just need to do it. And they haven't done that. And when they do make a decision, it's always wrong. And then they can't figure out how to apologize and undo it. So, this administration is, you would think, with 48 years in, DC politics, somebody would know what the heck to do, but they don't.
Yeah. And, the thing is that it just goes to show the incompetence here, because under Trump, his team knew what they wanted to do. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. They knew how they wanted to do it.
We're going to stop the leak. Boom. Yeah. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Whether people agree with it or not, they had a cohesive message. And something that you pointed out is exactly what members of the administration, on condition of anonymity, were telling BuzzFeed News and Political. They're saying like it's a different thing every day. It's confusing. Disjointed. They were complaining about this, and some have even resigned because of it. So when you contrast that to how Trump handled his team, which wasn't always perfect, but at least they were a cohesive unit. I don't know who put this team together, but common sense would say, if you're going to go open borders, then your team needs to have open borders people on it. If you're going to go more moderate, you need to have that going on. You can't have both. They are diametrically opposed to one another. So you can't have a team that functions that way.
Right. And you got a power struggle going on. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Kamala Harris is not a, left-wing progressive. She's more of a centrist. Well, she used to be. But now she's bouncing around. But, she's not the girl to put in charge of the border, obviously. Right. But if you want open borders and all your open borders people, you at least, feather in some different ideas, but it's not working for them. And we've seen this in everything they've tried to do. So when you take a fractured party of, Bernie bro kind of people versus the more old guard Joe Biden kind of people, they're not happy. They voted for Biden, but they're probably may not do it again. They may not stick with the ticket because they're just getting disappointed right and left. And then, for the conservative world, I think conservatives are going, well, we don't care if the progressives are happy or not. If they're unhappy and they vote against this, administration, then the conservatives will walk back in. So it's just an interesting thing to watch. It at the administration level, they either need to embrace it or they need to kick it to the curb, and they're just doing a little bit of both. It's like an abusive relationship.
Right.
I'm going to smack you around, and I'm going to buy you a ring. That just seems to be the norm for this administration.
Most definitely. And we'll keep an eye on this as this continues. But thank you very much for joining me. This was awesome.
Thank you.
See you next time.
All right.
Remember, this show is proudly sponsored by LibertyNation.com, where you can access podcasts, breaking news and analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. Just go to LibertyNation.com on your browser, or hit Rumble, YouTube, or check out our Liberty Nation News Roku channel. I'm Jeff Charles. Thank you for watching. This program is a production of LibertyNation.com, conservative news, where truth matters.
Who are we? We are Americans that believe in liberty. We are a project of the nonprofit One Generation Away. We are patriots who apply the founding principles to the issues of today.
And they keep moving the goalposts on us.
We are educators and commentators who love America and the Constitution. Who are we? We are Liberty Nation.